Is overthinking always a bad thing? Is a world lived in overanalysis detrimental to who we are as people? I think that we a lot of times stigmatize overthought or stigmatize overanalysis of the world around us. And not to say that overthinking's an inherently good thing, but in one way or another, it can be thought of as future thinking. It's what allows some people to plan ahead. However, there's a stark difference between someone who is using overthought or analysis to think ahead or to plan ahead and the person who's letting their mind run rampant and becoming a victim to their own thought. I find that overthought in my experience is hardly ever, a positive thing. Even if what I'm thinking of is a valid analysis of the circumstance I'm in, you know, there does come a point where you have to realize that complaint is not necessary for yourself or even others. Everything simply is the way it is. And the sooner we're able to find contentment with the fact that a lot of things just are, is the sooner we're going to be able to exist freely as people. Of all things, have no preference. Miyamoto Musashi. And in saying that, I think that it meant to stop placing expectations upon everything that happens in life. Not everything needs to be overanalyzed or even planned for. I think the best life is lived unstressed, and an unstressed eye sees an unstressed world. That is to say, the more we squint our eyes in search, the more obscured our vision will become. So, any implication would be to start to relax your mind a little bit. Stop taking everything as personal as it may seem. If it requires your action, you'll know. But a lot of things that provoke your thought don't necessarily require it. And I feel like a lot of times with what we feel, the negative emotions we feel and harbor towards other people, oftentimes impact us a lot more than they impact them. Most people don't act, but they think. And a person who thinks all the time has nothing to think of but thoughts. And as long as you're holding in that resentment and anger towards another person, another being, the more you're going to feel it. It's not like me being mad at my friend is going to make them feel my anger unless I do something, or unless I say something, etc. But the only one who's feeling that harboring, that holding on, that weight is me. So be careful what you put behind you, because it's going to end up being carried on your back. A lot of times we neglect the power that our complaint and self-stigmatization has on our environment. We overly criticize ourselves and give others a lot of freedom. Or we overly criticize others and do the same for ourselves or not the same for ourselves. And, it's like two wrongs don't make it right. Regardless, I think complaint is neither necessary, or I'm starting to think, or I'm exploring the thought. But over complaint and complaining about yourself in the way that you are isn't going to get you any closer to where you want to be. I feel like complaining is a waste of time when referencing what you want to be. You should focus on what you want rather than what you aren't, or what you don't want to leave behind. I feel like if you focus on the negative aspects of yourself, then they're only going to get more prominent. How can you focus on all the bad about yourself and want to be more good in a way? I'm not sure. But regardless of which, overthought and analysis, I couldn't peg them as a bad thing. But if all your thought is doing is allowing you to think it, and it's not inspiring any action, and it's just making you feel a certain way, and you're compounding upon a feeling that you have from a thought or experience, then I think that ultimately it's not worth all the time and effort that's put into it. thinking about one thing is one thing, but allowing yourself to be looped constantly and over again into a thought process about a specific event, then you're ultimately losing a lot of the fight without even fighting. A lot of us lose our battles without even fighting. And that's because we try to attack ourselves before we even allow ourselves to get to the external. But a lot of the time, things don't require action. Things aren't always personal to us. And in saying that, I know that that's like difficult to say. But in terms of, how other people feel, how other people think, or stuff like that, stuff that has to do with our social environment, none of it has to do with us. People can think whatever they want, and that's not necessarily, a good thing. Like, a raccoon would think trash is a good food, but you think regular food is a good food. Now, who's right? Because in the perspective of this one thing, you're wrong, but in your perspective, the thing is wrong. And a lot of the time, society works the same way. Some people just inherently have separate opinions because their perspective has allowed them to funnel these things into it. Now, I'm not talking about all opinions, like moral opinions, ethical stuff. I feel like that's more stuff that has to be set in stone in order to live in a society that respects everyone's ideals. There has to be some type of foundation at which society must sit on in order for people to actually find comfort and flourish. But with things that don't necessarily impact the nature of society, I feel like live and let live. Someone thinks the color red's better than the color green, you just have to let it slide. Complaint is neither necessary for yourself or others. So, overthought is not necessary for yourself or others. Overthought. I feel like that even the implication of over is making it seem as if it's too much. Plan ahead, but don't let the, the thought of future planning deter you from, present thinking.